Today is a very exciting opportunity for us to explore the science behind our new muscle supplement, which is the latest addition to our supplement line here. So following our recent product launches, we wanted to develop something that was specifically geared towards supporting muscle health, recovery, and of course, overall strength. And we're thrilled to be collaborating with Nuritas, the innovative AI peptide discovery company, to make our muscle formula really, truly exceptional. At the heart of muscle is PeptiStrong, Nuritas's patented ingredient, which we've combined with other key ingredients like creatine, magnesium, electrolytes, L-glutamine, and zinc. And together, these ingredients provide a very comprehensive support to anyone looking to enhance their muscle performance and recovery. So to help us understand the science behind the innovation of PeptiStrong, I'm joined today by Andy Franklin-Miller, who is the Chief Medical Officer and Innovation Officer at Nuritas. Andy, how are you?
Phil, absolutely delighted to be with you.
Great. Well, Andy, we're very keen to explore PeptiStrong and Nuritas's very unique take on peptide discovery. So obviously it's a very fascinating ingredient. And maybe, could you maybe just go back and take us back to the beginning of what makes PeptiStrong unique and how it supports muscle health, strength, and recovery?
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's start with peptides. So peptides are just proteins, really small, short chains of amino acids. And unlike amino acids which we eat as fuel, PeptiStrong is a network, a combination of peptides that we've identified and discovered and tested through artificial intelligence. Nuritas, over the last 10 years, has built a unique database of over 9 million peptides that come from plants. So we find them in plants, so they're food grade, and then we check their action, their focus, and within PeptiStrong, unlike most other ingredients, there are 5 unique mechanisms of action. And that's what gives that power, that specificity within that small dose of the ingredient.
Great. So you've got 5 MOAs, which is impressive in itself. So how do you use AI when you've got a candidate before you put it into production? How do you use AI to help you identify whether it's the right peptide candidate or not?
Absolutely. So with PeptiStrong, we wanted to find an ingredient that was unique within muscle health. We wanted something that would increase protein synthesis, so to help us build muscle. We wanted to find an ingredient which would slow down the breakdown of muscle. We know that people after we reach the age of 30, every 5 years or so, we start to lose muscle. And muscle is so important for longevity. We know in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, a meta-analysis showed that up to 21% shift in all-cause mortality just from muscle alone.
Wow.
And that's why it was so important. But alongside that prevention of breakdown, we wanted to look at anti-inflammation, we wanted to look at ATP production, but also the upregulation of bone mineral content. So we wanted something that would cover all of those. Now, if we tried to do that by chance, it would have taken us 100 million years.
Right.
Because we would be picking something out of a plant, trying to test it against an assay in one of 2 of those areas, and the chances of finding a combination of peptides that would fit all of those criteria, it would be virtually impossible. And that's where our AI comes in. So we built in filters that needed these groups of peptides. And because over the last 10 years, we built this unique database where we'd digested enzymatically multiple different plant sources, identified peptides, and then matched them with biological receptor activity. And a lot of that wasn't AI. So a lot of that wasn't just data. A lot of it's biological experiments that we've carried out to build that database. It doesn't just get there by magic, but it's totally unique. So that database allows us to ask those questions and really like a sorting box, like Harry Potter in many respects. The sorting hat is giving us the best fit. Which are the peptides that will deliver the best activity? And of course, they have to be absorbed. They've got to survive the gut, and they need to act once they've been absorbed. And all of that is tested biologically and then into 3 human clinical trials.
Great. Well, of course, Andy, there's a lot of science behind all of this, but of course there are other ingredients in our product too, which we feel are very complementary to PeptiStrong, which is kind of what we call one of our hero ingredients, right? So we've got creatine, magnesium, electrolytes, L-glutamine, and zinc. So how do you see PeptiStrong working alongside those? Do you feel that there's a synergy there?
Absolutely. So if we take creatine alone, what we found is that PeptiStrong can match the ATP production of creatine. But what creatine lacks is the ability to increase protein synthesis. And that's where PeptiStrong really steps in. 5 times an increase in protein synthesis compared to creatine. So that's a great combination. And when we look at glutamine in terms of muscle recovery, again, PeptiStrong works via a different mechanism of action. So again, a great choice because you're not just trying to force activity down one line, you're taking a different approach, so different mechanisms of action. And that's where PeptiStrong really has that benefit. Because it works through those very specific focuses, what we're able to do is synergize really well with carefully selected ingredients.
Yeah, great. Well, of course, we're very proud of how we've put this together and very proud of our relationship too. And one of the things that we were very keen to do was ensure that there's a longevity now benefit to our products and a longevity later benefit. And of course, a lot of what we're talking about is muscle decline, and we're very aware of what's happening with weight loss drugs and lean muscle maintenance and so on. But of course, just thinking about the aging aspect of that, how does PeptiStrong address the unique needs of aging individuals when it comes to muscle preservation and future function?
Absolutely. Well, let's look at the first clinical trial. So we carried out a trial in 30 subjects where we simulated that muscle loss. So we put them in plaster of Paris on a full leg cast for a week. So that muscle starts to break down, we start to lose muscle, and we compared PeptiStrong to milk protein. So typically the sort of protein that we would have maybe in supplementation with whey or the like. What we found was really interesting. So 2 weeks after the cast had come off, the milk protein group had recovered about 60% of their strength. The PeptiStrong group had recovered over 100%, so 103% of that strength.
Over
the strength. And when we took a biopsy of the muscle of the volunteers, what we saw was that the PeptiStrong group had 4 times the protein synthesis of that of milk protein. And so in that immobilization trial where we're losing muscle, we saw that PeptiStrong was able to stimulate that process. And it wasn't a case of just feeding more protein. It was a case of being able to drive the pathway to make use of what you had.
Right.
And we've gone on to look at some lab data, which is really interesting. So as we age, we know that the leucine drive to protein synthesis becomes a little bit sticky. So normally leucine at the top of a pathway called mTOR would drive mTOR and protein synthesis. But as we age, particularly over 50, that becomes less evident. So just pushing more leucine at the top end doesn't result in more muscle at the back end. PeptiStrong overcomes that. And PeptiStrong is able to drive that pathway regardless of the amount of leucine. And that's really interesting because, again, in terms of maintaining muscle, as we age, we might have a more varied diet. We might eat less, but we still want to keep hold of what we have. And that's where PeptiStrong really comes in. The mechanism there, Phil, is we work via genetic transcription. So we work via the estrogen-1 and MERF1 pathways to block that activity to prevent that muscle breakdown. So we're holding on to what we have as well as increasing new muscle synthesis. And that's all within that one ingredient.
I mean, that's absolutely fascinating, Andy. And I guess you're very big on clinical evidence, right? As a company, so we were very keen to be partnering with you guys because, of course, you've got human data. So, are you doing work on people that are using PeptiStrong for more longevity now benefits when they're perhaps in the gym and trying to make sure that they recover faster, that type of thing?
Absolutely. We've got 2 clinical trials. The first one in men, and the second in both men and women.
Right.
And we focus very much on strength gain and muscle recovery. So the second clinical trial that we ran, 30 men, we put them through an exhaustive leg extension routine using a Cybex dynamometer. I actually designed the protocol based on my work with elite athletes in the past.
Okay.
So we induced muscle damage, and then we looked at them 48 hours and 72 hours after we increased that, gave the damage. We compared placebo, so capsules with just a silicate for sand in them, and then PeptiStrong. What we found again was the PeptiStrong group became stronger 72 hours after that damaging protocol than they were at baseline. So the PeptiStrong group increased that muscle strength. One of the really interesting things was something about muscular energy. And what I mean by that is fatigue index. So how much you can lift in rep 1 versus how much you can lift at the end of your set. What we found was a significant difference between the two groups. Over 70% difference in that fatigue index with PeptiStrong. How that really translates is the ability to go and do that extra Peloton class, to run up the flight of stairs, to get out and do the shopping, to do what you want to do, to get to the gym. So that muscular energy is a concept really important, I think, to get across, that we demonstrated PeptiStrong has a big benefit in.
Well, it's fascinating because really what you're talking about is these pathways are obviously finding some way through to not only recovering back to the point where you were, but taking you further past that point, which I guess if that's your regime and your muscle health regime, whether it's strength training or whatever it may be, is obviously going to benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the precision nature of these peptides. They're working specifically at a receptor level to elevate, to increase, or prevent access to those pathways. And we saw that in the third clinical trial also. We saw a 17% increase in strength after a 2-month training program against placebo. We saw an almost doubling of the number of reps to fatigue with the PeptiStrong group versus the placebo. But we also saw a 0.7% shift in bone mineral content. And to put that in perspective, that's the same as sort of almost a year of supplementation with vitamin D and calcium, because we're driving a pathway that ends up with a myokine called osteocrine, which enables that uptake of bone and bone mineralization. So that's an added benefit of PeptiStrong, particularly in the combination that you put together.
Yeah, great. Well, Andy, I could go on all day about what you're doing with us as a company, but let's just talk about Nuritas. How's it all going? What's on the horizon for you guys at the moment?
So absolutely. I mean, we have over 9 million peptides identified using our AI system magnifier. And we have 2 clinical trials underway at the moment, one in Australia looking at sleep and cognition and focus, and another with Vedic looking at maintaining glucose metabolism. One of the things we know about high circulating levels of glucose is they cause an awful lot of inflammation in the body. It's that insulin sensitivity, that loss of sensitivity, that can lead to metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes. And we want to be able to try and use peptides to reduce that spike, to improve health from within. And that's really our mission. What we want to be able to do is improve access to the whole population of food ingredients or supplements that really affect health, that are clinically proven in really small doses that aren't synthetic. There isn't a huge carbon cost to production of these ingredients. They're from plants. It's an extract, a very precise extract that we check the purity of them with mass spectroscopy in terms of analysis, but all nonetheless with a very low carbon deficit. So it's very important for us in both the health of the planet, but also the health of the population.
Well, Andy, I'm very excited about the partnering that we've got with you guys on this key ingredient. And one of the things that I like to ask our partners is some quick-fire questions. Are you down for that?
Absolutely. Let's go for it.
All right. So nice and short. So what's the most surprising benefit of PeptiStrong?
I think for me, it's muscular energy. It's the ability to upregulate that ATP production and to get more out of your workout and more out of recovery so that you're ready to go again.
Okay, so how would you describe PeptiStrong's effect on muscle health in one word?
5 benefits from one ingredient.
Okay, that's probably 4, but I'll take it. So what excites you the most about the future of AI in supplement development?
I think what we're doing is shortcutting chance. So rather than take those steps to look for ingredients, which might take us 20 years to identify, it typically takes us about 18 months to take an ingredient from discovery through clinical trials. That's hugely exciting. We'll not get all 9 million out, but we'll certainly go some way towards it.
Okay. And if you had to choose one supplement for muscle recovery, which one would it be?
I think we all know protein. Protein's essential, and that's the most important. I think in my work in clinical medicine, protein deficiency is one of the big bugbears in terms of effective rehabilitation. That's where PeptiStrong comes in, is being able to get the most out of protein that you can otherwise miss out on.
Okay, and what's the biggest myth about muscle health that you'd like to debunk?
I think the biggest myth is that weightlifting makes you big. And I think that's one of the real challenges that we see in clinical medicine, is that there's a reluctance in order to do that. You know, the statistic I quoted earlier, 17 to 22% reduction in all-cause mortality from muscle strength has to be the lowest hanging fruit. We focus on minutiae here. Get strong with muscle lifting weights, and that really is the initial key. If you get that right, the rest is then time to dabble.
Great. Well, Andy, thanks so much for joining us today. Very proud to be partnering with you guys, and looking forward to great success for everybody going forward.
Absolutely. Great to talk to you, Phil.